I came in for batteries and I'm leaving with some amaryllis. Gotta treat yourself, right? Who's paying?
This one's pretty full.
Today we're gonna work on decorating the front porch for the holidays. So I've gathered all of my things and I'm ready to go. Before I can decorate for the holidays, first I gotta clean up fall. It feels like I was just out here decorating for fall just a couple of weeks ago, and here we are now taking it down and getting ready for Christmas. When it comes to Christmas decor, we're pretty minimal. I pretty much have the same setup on the porch every year. The 2 wreaths on the windows, the garland above the door, and these few lanterns here. I have about 5. I think I used to have 6. One of them got rusty, so I tossed it. Maybe I'll add another one at some point. And then my 2 holiday planters, which I make up each year, and they always look different depending on which greens I cut and how I arrange them. I do have to grab the planters from the backyard, so I'm going to grab those as well so that we can put them together. But I like to keep it minimal for 2 reasons. It is less that I have to take apart and put away and store, and it's also expensive to kind of change your decor every year, so it's just not something that I'm interested in, and I like to keep it simple. We took all of the pumpkins that we used for fall decor off of our front porch, and now we are going to cut them out and throw them in the woods for the deer. We've been doing this for years. We usually just come out to the backyard in our woods and we just leave the pumpkins here for the deer. My hope is that they will find this tasty treat to eat and they will stay out of my garden.
Making it easy for them.
Yes, we are. So they get their very own Thanksgiving meal.
This one's pretty full.
Here are the planters that I'm going to use to put my greens in for my front porch decorating. So I just have to move them from here to the front, and this wagon is going to help me, or help George, pull them much easier because they're pretty heavy once they get filled with soil, and it rained a couple of days ago. I'm going to go through and I'm going to take some cuttings from my garden to make my holiday arrangements. I'm going to do my 2 front porch pots and possibly even my window boxes on my shed. And I do this every year. In fact, last year I made a video called using free greens from my garden to create holiday containers and arrangements, which I will link here and I'll also put in the description of this video if you want to check it out. In that video I provide more details about what I do and you can see my step-by-step process. So let's go through the garden and get some greens. What I like to do is use different textures and different colors to make my arrangements really interesting and beautiful. When I'm cutting from this yellow shrub here, I want to make sure that I get the most golden color, which means the parts that get the most sun. But I also want to be careful when I'm cutting on my shrubs because I don't want to make it look funky or like there's a bald spot. So when you're going through and cutting from your shrubs, just kind of cut in different areas. And if you do have a golden shrub, just remember that the top of branches are going to be the brightest where the sun hits. The ones underneath are going to be more green. So if you're looking for yellow, cut from the top and the outer edges. Here is an example of what I mean by getting different colors and different textures. Here is the gold juniper that I just cut earlier, and here I have a Mugo pine that is a beautiful shade of green, and this here is a blue owl juniper that has a really gorgeous blue color. So I am not going to cut on my Mugo pine because it isn't big enough yet, but I am going to cut on this blue gray owl juniper because it has gotten really large and has really beautiful texture and color. Did you get a good one?
Go.
That'll do. Thank you. Here in the front of my containers, I have some creeping Jenny, and this is a perennial, so it comes back for me each season. What I'm gonna do to clean this up so that I can put my greens arrangements in here is I'm gonna cut it back all the way to the base. And so you won't see them, but they'll still be in here. And so in the spring, they will start to grow again. I'll have to get some more green somewhere. Here's my hinoki.
I wonder if maybe you can help me just get this up.
I don't know what I'm gonna do with that sponge.
Cutting these so I can stick them in the back of my arrangement. And here are this year's front porch planters all completed. I used all of the greenery that we gathered from around the garden, and this year I did ask a friend if she could share with me some sprigs of her winterberry as well as a couple of leaves of her beautiful southern magnolia. And that shiny broad foliage is such a beautiful finishing touch here on the front of my Christmas planter. A red winterberry gives it a nice pop of red, and I am definitely thinking about adding some winterberry next spring so that in a couple of years I can cut from my own winterberry for my Christmas arrangements. It adds such a beautiful pop of holiday color. Now you could get the same broadleaf texture as this magnolia here with something like a rhododendron, and it just adds a really nice contrast. And while Mom and Dad were working on the front porch, my 10-year-old was out here doing his work and putting up all of his Christmas inflatables. I have a bunch of greens left over in my gorilla cart from my front porch planter, so I'm going to go ahead and use them here to decorate my window boxes on my shed. There are a couple more things that I want to cut to include in these, but I'm going to start building them with the rest of the cuttings that I have, and then we'll see where we're at. I also have some really beautiful hinoki that I ended up cutting when I was working on my front porch planters that I think has a really gorgeous green texture that I'm going to include in these window boxes as well. And here is my shed window box all completed. I have gray owl juniper in the back with some hinoki cypress, some of my Colorado blue spruce in the center, some old gold juniper on the sides in the front there, and hanging over the edge I have some gold mop cypress. And then I also tucked in a couple of cuttings of my red twig dogwood. It's not that mature yet, so I didn't cut on it too much, just a couple of pieces for some vertical interest, and some pine cones. I foraged about 2 bags of pine cones last season, and they were the perfect finishing touch for the front of this box. I do have some string lights, battery operated string lights that I'm going to add for a little bit of twinkle in the evening, but I need some fresh batteries. So I'm gonna go pick those up and then I will add the lights afterwards. But these are completed and total cost $0. because I had all of these evergreens and components growing in my garden, and even the pine cones were free. And I really like the way it turned out. And as I'm walking in, look at these cute arrangements. It's exactly what we're working on at home. And these are on a Black Friday special. They're a 6-inch whiskey barrel planter. They were $14.98 and now they're $9.88. Comes with all little decorative picks and fresh greens. And there's another Black Friday special here. It's a 10-inch drop and decorate. Was $22.98, now it's $12.88. And look at that. You just put it right into your planters. It's already done. The arrangement, you get some greens, some decorative picks, a bow, and you would just, these will stay fresh for so long. These would even feel moist, but they'll get watered by the elements, they'll stay nice and cool, and you don't have to do anything with them all winter. Here I decided to pick up some amaryllis, and I'm gonna get the bulbs, the single bulbs, for $8.98, and I've decided on 2 red and 1 white. They also have some in a wax bulb for $16.98, which would make a good gift. And they have some in pots that are also $16.98. The Minerva, the Red Lion, and you can then keep the pot. It's decorative, which is really pretty. I came in for batteries and I'm leaving with some amaryllis. Gotta treat yourself, right? Who's paying? Now that I've picked up some batteries, I went ahead and found my string lights that were in storage. And these have a built-in timer for 8 hours. So as long as I use good quality batteries in these, I can usually get about 4 weeks of light on them. And right before Christmas, they start to kind of dull out, and you could either replace the batteries or just leave them off at that point. George is going to put the batteries in the light box for me, but something to keep in mind, we always start with these empty because one year I accidentally left the batteries in there and they started to corrode, which would ruin the light box. So now I make a mental note to make sure I take them out at the end of each season. These do have multiple modes on them, and because it's still too light outside, I'm going to shut them off for now. And then at about 4:30 when it's dark, I will come out here and turn them on. And whatever time you turn them on at is when they will turn on each night and stay on for 8 hours. If this is something that you're interested in, I do have them linked in my Amazon store, and I will leave the link in the description of this video below. Because these planters here are more exposed to the elements, I'm going to take the battery box and I'm going to put it in a plastic sandwich baggie. That way it just gives it a little bit more protection from getting wet, from rain and whatnot. So once I get them in here, I just close them and I sort of just tuck them into the planter. Here's how I decorate the lanterns that I have here on the porch. A couple of them do have some of those LED pillar candles in them, but a couple of them were just plain solid black wrought iron lanterns that I threw some Christmas ornaments and some pine cones in them, and they give them a bit of a festive feel. So tell me, have you ever cut greens from your garden to do your holiday planters and arrangements? If not, I hope that I've inspired you to give it a try. It's really easy and lots of fun, and each year you can create a different arrangement depending on what you cut and how you arrange them in your containers. So they can always look different. And also, we had a beautiful, productive day out here. We were able to get all of the outside decorations done. Now we have to work on the inside, but that will be for another day. My son also was able to get all of his Christmas inflatables up, and so this evening when it gets a little bit darker, I will come out here and I will show you what the porch looks like lit up, as well as the inflatables. And if you want a little bit more information about how to create these arrangements, I will go ahead and link to the video that I created last year that has a little bit more detail here at the end of the video. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I'll catch you in the next one.